Basically, they said they're fine with it, but they set up stuff
Fine with what?
helping us progress.
Victorious Buddhas, compassionate ones, throughout the infinite worlds of the 10 directions, grant your blessings so that the inner and outer work that I accomplish today bears the fruits that multiply beyond imagining and extend to the very limits of this existence to benefit myself, the ones I love, and the countless other beings of the six realms.
Thank you, Julia. I forgot to send the reminder that the session was starting. I know people rely on that. You just give me two. I think I'm just gonna write a line on Discord. Just a sec.
I just put it in my agenda.
Yeah, not everybody does that, unfortunately. Don't take too long.
Well, I'm just used being punctual, so.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have an agenda for everything. And you can keep up with
Yep.
time. And you can also plan in your free time and your relaxed time. And
Yes.
Hey, Rico. How are you? Okay, so that's done.
Hello, Senki. Hello, everybody.
hello.
Hello.
All right. So today is the last part of the chapter on Buddha nature. We've been talking a lot about that, and today we're going to speak a little bit about egolessness. And then what follows actually is about, I think the chapter is called Human Defilements. So we're going to kind of look at the things that are keeping us away from our Buddha nature. But I feel it's going to be a simple exchange we're going to have today, but it might be interesting. We're going to turn it more into a conversation than just a commentary. So let's start with the reading, Julia, whenever you want. Chapter, yeah, egolessness, I think, page 71. And by the way, you're crawling, you might want to switch into, yep, like that.
Egolessness. We have been speaking of Buddha nature as though it were something that could be described, as though it were similar to the soul of other teachings. But it is not. The concept of an ego personality is something that has been imagined by a discriminating mind, which first grasped it and then become attached to it, but which must abandon it. On the contrary, Buddha nature is something undescribable that must first be discovered. In one sense, it resembles an ego personality, but it is not the ego, in the sense of I am or mine. To believe in the existence of an ego is an erroneous belief that supposes the existence of non-existence. To deny Buddha nature is wrong, for it supposes that existence is non-existence. This can be explained in a parable. A mother took her sick child to a doctor. The doctor gave the child medicine and instructed the mother not to nurse the child until the medicine was digested. The mother anointed her breast with something bitter so that the child would keep away from her of its own volition. After the medicine had time enough to be digested, the mother cleansed her breast and let the child suck her. The mother took this method of saving her child out of kindness because she loved the child. Like the mother in the parable, Buddha in order to remove misunderstanding and to break up attachments to an ego personality, denies the existence of an ego. And when the misunderstanding and attachments are done away with, then he explains the reality of the true mind, that is the Buddha nature. Attachment to an ego personality leads people into delusions, but faith in their Buddha nature leads them to enlightenment. It is like the woman in a story to whom a chest was bequeathed. Not knowing that the chest contained gold, she continued to live in poverty until another person opened it and showed her the gold. Buddha opens the minds of people and shows them the purity of their Buddha nature. If everyone has this Buddha nature, why is there so much suffering from people cheating one another or killing one another? And why are there so many distinctions of rank and wealth, rich and poor? There is a story of a wrestler who used to wear an ornament on his forehead of a precious stone. One time, when he was wrestling, the stone was crushed into the flesh of his forehead. He thought he had lost the gem and went to a surgeon to have the wound dressed. When the surgeon came to dress the wound, he found the gem embedded in the flesh and covered over with blood and dirt. He held up a mirror and showed the stone to the wrestler. Buddha nature is like the precious stone of this story. It becomes covered over by the dirt and dust of other interests, and people think that they have lost it. But a good teacher recovers it again for them. Buddha nature exists in everyone, no matter how deeply it may be covered over by greed, anger, and foolishness, or buried by his own deeds and retribution. Buddha nature cannot be lost or destroyed, and when all defilements are removed, sooner or later it will reappear. Like the wrestler in the story, who was shown the gem buried in his flesh and blood by means of a mirror, so people are shown their Buddha nature, buried beneath their worldly desires and passions, by means of the light of Buddha. Buddha nature is always pure and tranquil, no matter how varied the conditions and surroundings of people may be. Just as milk is always white, regardless of the color of the cow's hide, either red, white, or black. So it does not matter how differently their needs may condition people's life, or what different effects may follow their acts and thoughts. There is a fable told in India of a mysterious medical herb that was hidden under the tall grasses of the Himalayas. For a long time, men thought for it in vain, but at last, a wise man located it by its sweetness. As long as the wise man lived, he collected this medical herb in a tub. Sorry.
I think that was the oven.
Dinner ready?
So I think I'm going to take it from there. So as long as the wise man lived, he collected this medical... Okay. All right, I thought you were going to be longer, so I was reading, but go ahead. As long as the wise man...
As long as the wise man lived, he collected this medical herb in a tub. But after his death, the sweet elixir remained hidden in some far-off spring in the mountains. And the water in the tub turned sour and harmful and of a different taste. In like manner, Buddha nature is hidden away beneath the wild growth of worldly passions and can rarely be discovered. But Buddha found it and revealed it to the people. And as they receive it, by their varying faculties, it tastes differently to each person. The diamond, the hardest of known substances, cannot be crushed. Sand and stones can be, ground to powder, but diamonds remain unscattered. Buddha nature is like the diamond and thus cannot be broken. Human nature, both its body and mind, will wear away. But the nature of Buddhahood cannot be destroyed. Buddha nature is, indeed, the most excellent characteristic of human nature. Buddha teaches that, although in human nature there may be endless varieties, such as men and women, there is no discrimination with regard to Buddha nature. Pure gold is procured by melting ore and removing all impure substances. If people would melt the ore of their minds and remove all the impurities of worldly passion and egoism, they would all recover the same pure Buddha nature.
All right. Thank you, Julia. And welcome to the new faces that I'm seeing for the first time. Did you guys join from the Facebook, the Discord, or were you just browsing around and stumbled upon this?
Stumbled upon it.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, yeah. So, as you can see, this is a Buddhist study group. For those that are not familiar with Buddhism, no belief involved, no deities, no God in the sky. Just a guy called Buddha who shared a way of living and left a lot of scriptures known as sutras behind. And so we study those sutras and discuss them together. And we also practice meditation as a way to kind of reconnect, recenter ourselves. So basically we have three phases in this session. First we read, then we do a little commentary, and then we do a meditation session together. So now we're about to start the commentary, which is going to be more a discussion today, I guess. And I would like to start with what is the soul? Because it was mentioned in today's lecture. So we're going to try and find out what's the difference between a soul and a Buddha nature. What's the Christian soul? Anybody has an answer to that?
Does that involve anything with like the Trinity or something? I don't know, there was this whole explanation of the Trinity. I'm not so sure anymore.
So you mean like the Holy Ghost would be like the Holy Ghost manifestation in somebody?
I'm not so sure. I sometimes get confused what people actually mean with soul, depending from religion to religion. But I know that Christianity often speaks about the Holy Trinity and stuff.
So Holy Trinity would be the God, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So do you mean to say that there would be all three present in somebody who has a soul? Or that one of these aspects, or you're not sure?
Well, if I think of the soul in how I would explain it is what people believe what's manifested inside our bodies that will be released upon death when they go to the afterlife or something. To put in simple terms.
Space Dandy, you wanted to say something as well?
I suppose it is the life force that guides the spaceship that is our body.
Now I get why you're called Space Dandy.
Thank you.
Nicely said.
Yes, that's nice. All right. Anybody with a different take on these?
Is the non-material part of your essence? Sorry.
All right. Alka? You're cutting out, Malka, at least to me.
Yeah, the mic is...
very soft.
I'm sorry, I have my... I get...
Are you sure you're not using the wrong mic to speak with? Sounds...
I'm
We
sorry,
literally
Malka.
can't hear you.
Unfortunately, we can't hear you well, so... but I'm gonna thank you anyway. So The soul. Let me talk about a few different aspects of what I think the soul means to Christian. Yes, it is the life essence that is empowering the ship. It is what's liberated when we die. It's probably what goes up to heaven. But isn't there like an idea in the Christian soul that it kind of has your personality? It's kind of how you act and talk now, and it's kind of carrying that into another realm. I feel that it's based, and you also kind of have this image of the soul being like a transparent photocopy of the body, isn't it? Like when you try to visualize that in Christian movies, you would kind of get a ghost of the person, but is the same face. So it's pretty much like a carbon copy, but in spirit essence of who you are right now. And then that leaves you, and just like the envelope falls to the ground and is done with. That's kind of how I understand soul in Christianity from my own my own years being raised as a Christian. So let's forget about that for a second. Now let's ask ourselves, what is Buddha nature for those that have been there over the last few weeks? How is Buddha nature kind of different from the soul? What's the characteristics of what are the characteristics of a Buddha nature?
You're still in your body, but you're just in another phase.
Could it be consciousness, awareness, but without any ego behind it, like without like the personalities we have, just pure awareness, pure consciousness, or something like that?
These are two very interesting answers. I think they kind of complement one another very well as well. Jex, I think you had your hand raised.
I was going to say that to me, Buddha nature doesn't need anything spiritual. You could be a complete secular materialist, and Buddha nature could still make sense. So for me, Buddha nature is the idea that you can create a mindset that is always calm, always present, has no stories on anything other than just how to be effective and helpful and understanding. It doesn't react to the world, it chooses how to act. I mean, you could go on and on about all the amazing ways that you could train your mind, or that you could tap into. Well, I guess it becomes spiritual if you start talking about the Buddha nature being innate within you. But yeah, you could describe that for a long time, and none of that has to be spiritual.
What does spiritual mean to you, Jex?
Oh, thanks for asking. To me, spiritual means things that are not of this world. So ghosts, souls, reincarnation, heaven or hell. Things that we can't just see and touch and interact with.
All right, so the immaterial world, basically.
Yeah, but like happiness and kindness and love, a materialist can definitely believe in those things. Those things are real. So I mean the things that we could debate, like do we have a ghost that flies off when we die? That's up for debate. When people have to believe in that or not. Whereas there are some things like smiles or happiness that everybody can see. So yeah, when I meant spiritual, I meant the things that are not the stuff that everyone can see.
All right. Mara, I want to do justice to what you have said. Could you repeat the way you phrased it?
I'm terrible at that. So you're still in your body, so your soul is not gone, but you're in a different phase.
All right. So, yeah, Buddha nature, as Casper was pointing out, is pretty much the awareness and the consciousness of the universe. It's the consciousness and the awareness that you can share with a dog. If you remember remember probably my example from a previous session where I heard a noise and both me and the dog turned our heads in the same direction. And what that means is that there is something that was aware in us, the same thing that was aware in us that became aware of that noise. But I also often like to give the example of the sunflower that can turn towards the sun, and certain plants also will kind of change their shape or the way they're leaning so that they can get resources or more light or whatever. So there is this intrinsic quality about our universe that stuff with a big S is pretty much aware. You could say that the apparent harmony of the cosmos is also kind of led by some type of consciousness, or the bees colonies or the ants colonies. So it's present in the largest manifestations of the universe, but also in the tiniest. And so that I said, you two have a very complementary idea, because Mar, by talking about the faces, you're basically talking about the bees and the animals and the flowers and the planets. And so these are the different faces of awareness. But awareness, as Casper was pointing out, is kind of the stuff of the universe. So indeed, Buddha nature, unlike a soul, won't be traveling from one body to another. It's more like something that is there, and when you have a body, you can tap into it, and you can kind of do its will. But I often think of a body as a radio receiver. Like the universe is aware, and all of a sudden you're given a radio, and it allows you to tap into what the universe wants you to do, basically. And so you kind of receive your instructions there from it. The thing is that the radio is not always working very well, so there's interference. Like, let's say it catches two channels at the same time, so you have kind of your own will that you hear a static, and you can still hear the universe a little bit. So reconnecting with your Buddha nature in many ways is ignoring the static and getting a clearer and clearer message.
Sounds like overthinking. The
Yeah,
static.
that would be static, exactly. Yes. So, well, and that's a good bridge there. What is ego then? Because today's topic is egolessness. So before we can be egoless, we have to understand what an ego is.
Maybe a
Ego?
radio station in which we are alone.
A radio
We stop
station in
synchronizing.
which we are.
Yeah, taking your example of the radio, we're synchronized with the universe, but then we change the station and we are alone in one single station.
So
Maybe?
you're doing your own radio show, right? You're taking information from around you, and you're playing the message back to you, whatever you understood. Is that kind of how I should get this?
Yeah, it can be in that way, yes.
Okay, Jared, you were
Interesting.
about to say.
Now, for me, ego is what we want and what we've
The
learned
wants.
through life. You look to a goal and we try to chase that goal,
Okay.
but it always fails.
So that
Well, mostly anyway.
so that's close
That's how I
to
see
the concept of aggregates in Buddhism, and I won't tell you about it by the book right now, but basically Buddhism will tell you that you are a collection of things that you have accumulated. So yes, wants and desires, and also fears, and achievements and failures, and people that love you and people that hate you, and your jobs, and So the today's lecture also said that the ego personality is something imagined. So what do you take that to mean?
That we are not like that we often believe that we are like the center, or that we are our own, like you would say, our own main protagonist in a story. Like we are doing what we want, and we decide from a point from the me perspective, but that in truth, in a way, we're all connected and everything is more connected and we're part of it, as a whole than just an individual one's needs that we are trying to pursue most of the time.
Space,
Yeah,
you
and
wanted
also
to mention something
control.
also?
Yes, could you, just real quick to make sure I reply you correctly, could you repeat your question? The separation of what is...
I was simply asking what is ego, and how is the ego personality something imagined?
Well, we believe that we are not part of the oneness. Everybody who believes that they are an individual, that ego that we have created, is an illusion, I guess, to understand what feels like aloneness and what feels like that we are separate and apart, but it is an illusion because we are all of the same energy. We are all one. The deep down Buddha force, or whatever in each individual wants to call it, that is in all of us. That is there before all of the additional experiences and things that happen to us. That is within all of us, and our idea that we are separate is our ego, and therefore flawed and false.
Great answer. Mart, I think you were talking about control, and after that, Neojax.
Yeah, because ego also has to do with you think you're better, or you have some skills that are better, and so you have some control over people, how they are doing it, or you want to be in control. So an egolessness is more, we are doing it as a community together. So if you have an ego, you want to control everything, and it's not up to you, it's up to everyone to control a bit, or to participate in it.
So since you are out of the oneness, you're basically in competition with everything.
Yeah.
Neojax?
So Marge made a really good point that sometimes people use the word ego for like propping yourself up or thinking yourself is better. What I'm about to say is not about that version of the word, just the stories we have around ourselves, or the imagined thing that our ego is true. Let's just say someone falls in love tomorrow. Everything they're doing and thinking about and focusing on is different than what they were the day before. Or if there's a tragedy and someone really close dies, it can shake up everything, and suddenly the ways you think, the ways you focus, everything's different. And we often say, like, who I am right now, this is who I really am. But is this an imaginative story? Like, through either external events or meditation or something, you can be completely different in each moment. And so holding on to this story of yourself, to me, that's what I think of as ego.
Right, so you're saying it's like a story that we believe about ourselves, but it's not true because this story can change. It's kind of the case you're making there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So just to precise how this story happens, it starts with the aggregates that Jared was telling about, and then, so you have a past, you have things that you're good at and bad at, you have things that you own and things that you have lost, and so on. And you kind of tie a rope around that, and you call that rope I. You call the bundle that you have created of those aggregates by the name I. And from now on, when you refer to I, you are referring to all of these events and all of these bits and pieces that you have tied together. But in a way, it's a bit ridiculous because, first of all, science has proven that we change our memories as we grow older, as we revisit them. Then, as Neojax has said, we keep on writing our history, so this bundle will change. And also, it's a bundle of dead things. How could it ever be who you are right now? It's just where you came from, basically. So that's how this ego personality is imagined. So you could slap an eye on the bundle of aggregates, or you could slap an eye on the awareness of universe. And there's a profound distinction between those two ways of going around in the world. But let's talk about how we extend our identity also very quickly. Because oftentimes, and we do that unconsciously, I guess, but we extend ourselves, we extend our identity with things such as houses, cars, expensive toys like a plane or a boat. And how does that work? Is that all of a sudden you don't think of yourself just as I, the human. You think of yourself as I, the Mercedes owner, or the mansion owner, or the boat, or the plane pilot, and so on. Yes, Neojay?
They found if they wire a robotic arm up into someone's brain and you start using that robotic arm with your mind, the way the brain operates, it looks like the robotic arm is actually part of yourself. And they've also found the same thing with driving a car or operating big machinery. If you do it enough, your body brain starts to treat it like it's actually a part of you.
Yeah, you know what? Amazingly enough, they found out the same thing about cell phones. Now, when back in my days, when you were looking for a phone number, you would go and find a yellow pages or something. It was very external, and it was a quest in itself. It was the same when you were looking for a definition in the dictionary, and so many other things that we are looking on the internet right now. And where do we look it up most time now is our cell phones. So like the brain is now considering the cell phone as an external resource. And if you want to know how much part of you it is now, just think of the feeling you get when you walk out of your home and you realize you have forgotten your cell phone. It kind of creates instant distress, and most of us just run back to get it and look frantically for it. So it's like it's been fused with our body, and it's pretty much part of our identity. And to go even farther than that, there is this little war between Huawei and Android and iPhone, and people kind of identify with the brand of their phone as well. I saw the other day a guy driving a BMW, and that was not enough. He also had to put an Apple bumper sticker, and also had to say who he was gonna vote for. And there was everything on this car kind of was this prestigious personality that he had packaged and built for himself. So we do that. And the minute that you lose for the... I want to be polite, but actually this is the right word. For the less mature of us, when you lose your iPhone, you lose part of your identity, and it can become a crisis. If all of a sudden you have to use a cheaper phone and you don't feel proud of yourself anymore because you downgraded your brand. Yeah, but can you see how that's part of our ego identity, and how that is not only completely imagined, but also pretty much created artificially by the society that we live in, and marketing and ads and everything. So we incorporate that into the fiber of who we are.
It's like a material ego.
Yes. So you start, you're basically a cell, when you start in this world, and you keep on becoming more complex, and it seems that even when you're a being, you keep on gathering, and you don't only gather things, you gather thoughts, and you gather facts, and those facts are also boosting your ego. Some people will tell you something like, oh, I might not be rich, but I know everything there is to know about boats, right? And that's their ego personality right there, all those facts that they have accumulated about boats all those years. Some others, they will say, oh, I might not be rich and I might not be that smart, but I am very much in touch with my emotions, and so what they collect is feelings. So it seems that we go from a cell that divides and multiplies and that gathers into a being, to a being that keeps on doing the same thing, that kind of, we're building ourselves most of our lives, and when we lose parts of them, it feels like an illness. So we must be very very conscious, very acutely conscious that when we refer to ourselves as I, we are not at all talking about our Buddha nature or what we are profoundly. We are talking about these materialistic aggregates that we are just putting into ourselves. Hello. Oh, a bit shy, I guess. Yeah.
So do we need to say us instead of I?
Yeah, and we need special us toilets as well. I guess.
Share a toilet. Oh.
Oneness toilet at the airport. That would be awesome.
Ah, jeez. I think there's already enough discussions with certain toilets being split up for and like so kinds of toilets, 4 kinds of toilets. We're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing in it. Let's be honest. Let's raise our hands.
Yeah, right. Shit happens.
Especially there.
On that place.
Alright, so my question to you is a hard one today. How would you live without your personality and the things you consider to be you? Because it's easy to look at the world and see that this is happening. But let's say I remove your iPhone and your good car and your good house and your beautiful wife and everything that you consider yourself to be your story. All the suffering that you've had, all of a sudden I free you from it. All the things that you think you will become at some point, I free you from it. Who are you? What's left of you?
Just a generic human being?
A Buddha.
A generic human being. Yeah, maybe a Buddha as well.
Just
best?
So I like the fact that he says a generic human being as if it was like a robot, like you don't have what differentiates you anymore, right?
Well,
but I'm still unique in my physique. I cannot take that away. Right?
I'd say if you still exist and but you have no ego, nothing that really drifts you in anything to a certain point, and you're just there. I think you're talking about maybe just awareness, being one with nature.
That's a good answer, because what if you don't have your desires and your passions and all those things that you react to normally anymore? Then what can trigger you into action? What can motivate you anymore? See how that would profoundly transform your experience of the world. Yes, Neojax?
So some people will go sit in a cave and meditate because they've let go of all those other things. For me, the question you asked leads me to ask, okay, if I am a blank slate, what would I then choose? What would be my values? What would I do for the world or for others? Or even if everyone was a blank slate, if everyone was suddenly enlightened and free, what would be an enlightened world? So then how do I go about being that and spreading it? But then I have to ask myself, are the thoughts I have as the answer to that, are they motivated by my aggregations? Like, how do I actually find good answers to those questions that are not just based on what I was?
Right, that's a good point. And I like that we got both extremes of the transition there, because self-realization kind of happens like this. First you go out and say, well, where's the juice? Where's my personality? Where are the things that I used to react so passionately about? The things that I liked to do so much about, now I don't like to do them so much. And the thing that I disliked with a passion, now I don't dislike them so much as before. So awakening moments may feel like that. And then you do feel like a generic human being. You do feel like a robot, and there's not a lot of motivation in there. And you kind of linger there. And if you manage not to...
on top of that?
Sure.
Alright, finish that. We'll finish what you're saying, and then I will add it on top of it.
Alright. So, Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. Don't tell
Okay,
us.
I was gonna say that by a generic human being, I also meant to say that you basically, if you remove everything that makes us unique, you're literally just a generic soul roaming around the world, responding to his instinct. That's
Alright.
pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
when you're empty, you can reprogram yourself to be nice and kind and help people.
I
That's the
think
ultimate
that
goal.
yeah, that's where I think I was going there. Actually, Jared, is that you go from kind of being empty and those instincts that you talk about. Let's keep them simple. Let's think about our natural instincts. For example, to breathe and to sleep and to eat and to drink. We need that to remain alive. So you kind of go from this very complicated psychological space where you're trying to be things, creating yourself with even brands, to something very simple that only needs to breathe and sleep. And then to feeling a bit bored, quite frankly, because it's not that fun just to breathe. So then you start looking for something to do. But you don't bring with you the weight of the past anymore. And yes, you can reinvent yourself, as Jared and NeoJex are saying. You can reprogram yourself. But then NeoJex gives us a word of caution there and says, well, what activities are you going to choose? Like, I don't know. You decide that iPhones don't define you anymore, but you decide to start a cell phone company, thinking you're doing something different. You could trick yourself into something like that. So there's a bit of care, but I mean, once you have a profound realization, you kind of have the tools not to fall in that trap, in that pit again, also. But today, I want you to consider that what you have considered to be you until now is what is actually hiding the real you. So allow this false identity to slip away from now on. Try not to hold on to it anymore. Inspect very clearly, even list it on a sheet of paper. When you say I, what are you talking about? And I know people that train a lot, and when they say I, they're basically talking about their muscles as well, because that's what they think is the most. I've heard people that train say, my body is my sculpture. My sculpture. I am a work of art. And so imagine how much kind of vanity and centeredness is put on this work of art there. So try to see how you define yourself in myriads of ways, and think of, again, the holistic centers, because I feel that they help a lot. So are you defining yourself by your mind? Do you define yourself through your emotions? Do you define yourself through your body? Or do you define yourself according to the material and spiritual worlds? We are pretty much doing a bit of everything, but probably you are more into one thing or another. And so there is such a thing in my book as intellectual materialism or emotional materialism. And you could be neglectful also of some of these things. So try and do a balance sheet of yourself in that respect. Try to figure out exactly who you are, and then it will let you know what you need to let slip away. And what's beyond that is freedom to be something else. It's freedom to claim back the world, basically. So, to the question, how would you live without your personality and the things you consider to be you? What would you do? What would you answer?
I kind of want to answer, but I can also want to reverse the question. What would you do, Zenki?
I think I would be teaching a class about Buddhism and virtual reality.
I feel I would be
Maybe you should
present
do
and
that.
at peace.
You would be present, Space, you say?
I feel that that's one of the biggest things that my ego holds back is an ability to be present in the moment, and I think that through presence of mind one can reach peace.
Yeah, it's true.
My
The
choice
thing
would
is that
be
when
to be kind and help people. As the best I could.
Which is probably being present as well, you know? The thing is with the aggregates is that they're like cardboard boxes that are cluttering your room. You would like to look at the view out the window, you would like to be present to the space in the apartment, but unfortunately all you have to look at is clutter. So until you unclutter yourself, it's really difficult to kind of get the entire environment in you. And I think that's what they mean actually in the lecture when they say that your true nature is buried under dirt and dust and it's been covered. So you've been cluttering yourself, basically. You've been cluttering your identity. And hello, Misu. Welcome.
Hi.
So, well, thank you. I get that you were walking by and you just stumbled upon us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we do that every
I hope I'm not
Monday. You're always
interrupting.
welcome to. Oh no! I am.
Always welcome.
No, you're more than welcome to participate.
Yes, you are. I'll do my best.
So, when you remove your own worldly passions, when you remove your fears and desires, another question is, whose will would you be doing then? If you're not motivated by this idea of who you were, and like Neojax or like Jared were suggesting, you decide to reprogram yourself, whose will is that?
Maybe
Hello,
maybe there
take
is
a seat and join us if you want.
maybe there is no will. Isn't the will to have a will also ego-driven in itself?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so will is I want to be careful, but I would say that in a way to will yourself out of a situation is kind of to reject that situation, right? So our traditional ego-based will is pretty much that. It's pretty much this competition that Mara was describing of us against the world, and I will myself out of an undesirable situation, basically. But I mean, if you're still acting, you're still moving and breathing, what's making that happen?
It's your subconscious.
Christians said, well, that must be God. I must be doing God's will. I must be in a state of grace touched by God because I don't want necessarily to do these things, but I'm doing them because something is blowing me in that direction. Something is telling me that they are necessary. And Jared, when you were talking about helping others, so you empty yourself and then you help others. At this point, it kind of feels natural, I would say. Neojax, you had your, yeah?
Another explanation, we were talking about aggregates, the things that make us up. If you've been hanging out in a group enough times that tell you God's will is inside of you and that's what you really want to do, or do kindness meditation and be kind, that's possibly also an aggregate.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what led a grand sage that I love called Jiddu Krishnamurti, you know, guys, I spoke about it a few times, to declare that inaction is the highest form of action. Because as long as you're acting and as long as you're exerting like human will on the world, you are basically a little bit deluded, a little bit hearing the static on the radio, you know? So that's why harmony and oneness is so important there. If you have to act because you're bored and you want to have a beautiful life and everything, well, you might as well do it from a standpoint that is conducive of harmony. Right? That's a good way to choose it. And it doesn't have to be all loving and tender. And, you know, in Buddhist circle, you often meet people that you meet them and say, hey, hello. And they go, hi, how's your day? Oh, I'm having a wonderful day. And they speak like that, you know, to everything.
They always sound high.
Yes, they always sound high. So that's when compassion becomes an aggregate, right? When you this is your new identity, basically. You became in your mind kind of that non-violent, all welcoming, all wonderful and beautiful saint, and you're trying to project that image onto the world. That's pretty
That's
much
still
a
pretty
new ego
good.
identity.
Yeah.
Well, what I was about to say is that at least it's fueled by an idea of creating more harmony around you. You're not there to pick a fight with people, right? So I don't want to make fun of these people either, but I just wanted to illustrate that on both ends of the spectrum, there's such a thing as kind of being too domineering and too controlling and everything, but there is also such a thing as being deluded into thinking that you have an enlightened ego, basically. That's almost equally dangerous. But the aspiration to not be motivated by your own fears and angst and everything is actually quite a cool one. So it's a delicate balance to find, and that's up to you. Hey, Neojax, yes.
We've been talking about compassion. A minute ago, Space Danny said he would love to be present and calm. And this conversation, we're kind of assuming that the letting go of the ego is possible. And I'd love to continue that. But maybe just for a moment, do you have any thoughts about helping with that process of being present and calm?
If I had just one word that I could answer to this, I would say contemplation. Like, look at the world in a way that you are participating in the world. Creek had a question in another session, and he said, he's very practical, and he asked me, how do I know that I am not just dissociating myself when I'm calm and I'm observing and I'm present? How do I know that I'm not just into like emotional dissociation? And that was not an easy answer, but I thought, when you're dissociating, you're kind of incarnating the observer. You are kind of removed from the situation. You are there and you're not judgy, but almost like you're not involved in it. You're looking at it as if it was a movie. So that wouldn't be like real presence, because you will miss details. You're a bit uninterested. So presence is more like when you're painting and when you're totally in the moment, when you have to analyze every little bit of light and every little shape and every little movement. So that's what you do when you properly contemplate. So I'd say that what helps to develop a true sense of presence is actually to be present to every little thing in the world, to insects, to the color blue, to the trees, to the people around you. Kind of observe beyond observing. I have this little thing that I've been repeating for years to many people. It's like, look like a painter, listen like a musician, taste like a chef, touch like the blind man. And which one am I from? I'm forgetting one sense here.
Think like a scientist?
Yeah, why not? Why not? But you get the idea. Is that I smell like a perfumer. Smell like I said look like a painter. It was smell like a perfumer. So we have those 5 gates, which are our 5 senses, and that's how all the information gets into us, into our body, into our mind, into our emotions. So in Buddhism they say guard those gates. But a good way to guard them is also to be very present to the experiences that are coming there. So when you eat food, look at the consistency, at the taste, at the texture, at everything. When you hear a sound or a music, listen to it as if you wanted to reproduce it. Find out what the instruments are, if they get louder, if they get lower, if they get faster or slower. This is what being present is all about. And you understand then the whole of the world in the smallest things. That's what happens. And also, people
Yeah.
get a kick out of being around you when you're able to get in that states with them, because whoever gives them that kind of quality attention, we never do that. Good, how are you? Good. You know, automatic responses is what we're confronted with all the time. That's not presence. Yes, Mar?
But how do you deal with oversensitivity when you want to be present? So if you have multiple senses who are bombarding you with everything, maybe it's good then to focus, but it's still very hard to be present.
Sensory overload.
So, what you will see if you pay attention to sensory overload as well is that your brain pretty much bottlenecks the quantity of information that you can receive. And a good illustration of that is that if you go to bed at night and you close the lights and there is no visual stimulation, have you noticed that like all the sounds start being like louder? You will listen.
Yeah, definitely.
You will notice all of the little cracks and everything.
I need to sleep with earplugs in.
Yeah, and maybe there's a LED light on your TV screen or something like that, and it looks like a laser beam at light. At night, you barely notice it during the day, but it's super amplified. So your brain kind of has, I'd say, like a tunnel of data that it can fill up. And sensory overload is kind of it's taking a bit of everything, but not a lot of everything at the same time. It cannot take more than the pipe, you know? But then if you cut a sense or two or three, well then more, like a fifth more with every sense that you cut of the pipe becomes available for the other senses. And so overstimulation and sensitivity to it becomes a problem only if emotion gets involved. If you start panicking about it, if you start saying this is a problem, this is too much, this is too many people. Is there something you want to say, Milso?
Heartburn, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I thought you wanted to speak. You have, for example, I've been having a little bit of agoraphobia all my life. I don't like to go to like big crowded festivals with hundreds of thousands of people. And if I let my emotions kick in, it just feels like everything is wiggling around me and it becomes like an overwhelming feeling. So, but then if I start focusing on things that are close to me, like a person next to me, or if I look higher above the crowd and look at the sky, so I can find smaller things to contemplate that will kind of reduce my distress. But also, you could, that's a good place to get dissociated, actually, if it helps. You could just take a mental step back and say, all right, yes, this is my environment and I won't let it get to me. It's okay. I will just look at everything, take it all in, make good memories tonight, and that's all. Right.
Yeah, I mostly have that at work, so... It's like, oh no, sensory overload, earplugs in. Today I wear a hat because of the lights, because they were too sharp.
Right.
Because I need to focus.
Yeah, so that's a strategy, you know. Some people wear headphones as well. You could try and cut some of the stimulation. However, you are not learning to deal with the world when you're cutting the stimulation through external means. So do that the way you would use a pill, maybe, but don't do that always. Give yourself some practice with the world. Otherwise, you are pretty much maintaining yourself in this state of relying on a crutch. Right?
Yeah, I think I'm getting really tired of it.
Well, we can
mentally.
I used to be at work. I used to be so sensitive at noises, but thanks to meditation, I can focus now. Somewhat, at least.
You know, what's very effective for me is to just take a deep breath and kind of step back a little bit and say, you know, what's going, and I do a quick introspection. What's going on in my mind? What's going on in my heart? how's my body feeling, and then you can go and have a little drink, have a little breather, 2 minutes, and then you're able to take a little bit more. But you have to pause. The good thing is that I'm not just putting a cap on myself to cut the light, or I am actually kind of dealing with it psychologically. So that's pretty much in that direction I would advise you go. And Neojex, what would you advise us there?
Yeah, I like that Jared just jumped in with how helpful meditation is. Believing that can help is actually an important thing. Like if you're meditating and you're thinking about it helping with anxiety and it helps there, that's great. But if it's never occurred to you that it will help with sensory overload, it might not help. So being aware that it can also touch that part of your mind makes it more helpful. So for example, I think we'd all understand that you could get angry and focus on being angry and you'll get more angry, or even fearful. If you're out in the dark somewhere and you start to feel a little scared because you heard a noise, if you start thinking of, oh, there could be werewolves behind the trees, then the fear's going to grow. Whereas if you stop and think, actually no, it's dark but I'm safe, then how you feel is changing. And my experience has been things like sensory overload is also comparable to that fear. It feels like it's happening to you, but it's actually just a state that if you focus on will grow, and if you focus on something else, you can change your experience. So Mara, I hope you can spend a bit of time imagining, feeling really calm and focused at work, and then practice that state of mind. And like Zenki said, if you ever start to feel the sensory overload, just focus on your breath, step out of it for a minute, and reset yourself.
Thanks.
So, behind my own little agoraphobia, I found out that actually when I meditated on that and investigated it, I found out that what was really overwhelming me was all of the kind of expectations of social. For example, I'm somebody that doesn't like to go to the supermarket because I was taught sort of a supermarket etiquette that you drive your cart to the right and you don't stop in middle of alleys, and you get your money ready before you pay. And so anyway, and some people get road rage pretty much in the same way. Like you get annoyed by all of the people that are not following the common sense and the little tips and like the etiquette that you've learned. And the more people, the worse, because it becomes kind of chaotic, and there's a feeling that you're losing control in there as well. So whatever your expectations are of being outside, if that's what you have trouble doing, or of being in a work environment, or of being with a crowd, look at your expectations of what it should be and try and understand why you think it should be like that. Because I mean, although these things are nice to drive your cart on the right and to get your money ready and to not stop in the middle of alleys, they're certainly not true. They're just social conventions, and people who have not learned those same conventions simply won't apply it. So you cannot get annoyed about anything unless you have a fear or a desire connected to it. And that's why I was asking this question, basically. When you remove your own worldly passions, when you remove your fear and desires, whose will are you doing? How are you living? And the way that you are living when you don't have that is quite peaceful and contemplative. I guess we've just closed the circle there. I don't know if that helps, but if I was in your shoes, Mar, I would definitely ask myself, why shouldn't the light be bright, and why is it annoying you? Now, if you have photophobia or a medical condition, by all means wear a cap or sunglasses. But if it's just because you feel like you're out of the space that would allow you to perform, then maybe there's something more to this.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So can we all see how letting go of our likes and dislikes can kind of lead us closer to a Buddha, to our Buddha nature, to our nirvana state, if you will? Can we all see that?
I do. I mean, it's how I mean, I used to be a lot sensitive in many ways, but also just sensitive in what other people would think of certain things. But now, most of the time, I mean, I've had friends in my life that were quite leaning towards the right side of politics, and they would be quite, let's say, and I would jokingly say, oh, if you would be with anyone else but me, you might get a punched in your face right now with what you just said. But I would just let it go, because I would say what would make it the point be arguing. I would just upset myself, I would upset the situation, nothing would be gained. So I would just shrug my shoulders and be like, this is a funny situation that I got myself into. I guess I'll just be here in the now, I guess.
Right, and I mean, sometimes you can also decide to take a punch. If you have no fear at all.
Oh yeah.
Take a punch once in a while.
Oh yeah.
So I guess it's part of it, is just existing and being free. And so what is beyond the ego personality has been described in today's lecture as diamond-like. But not only in today's lecture, but also by an entire tradition. If you're familiar with Vajrayana, which is Tibetan Buddhism, then you might not know that Vajra is actually a Sanskrit word for diamond. So it actually means the diamond vehicle, Vajrayana, and is supposed to lead you to that indestructible realization. So diamonds, they say, can't be crushed. That must have been true 2,500 years ago. Now I'm pretty sure we can do that. But what's important there is that we're talking more about a spiritual diamond that has no material existence. So Buddha nature is that spiritual diamond that you could run a knife through it, you could have a bomb explode right in the middle of it, and it couldn't affect it in any way, shape, or form. So this nature that we all share is precious and timeless. So today is an invitation to recognize how truly precious this is, and how truly precious you are. You can walk this earth with grace, doing the universe's will and trying to work with harmony, forever touched by your environment, or you could keep on trying to accumulate aggregates and make you into something that is larger than life, I guess. But I would say try it this week. Let go of your own personal drama and try to see how your life would be transformed if you were not defined by your hurts and your pleasures anymore. If they held no more power over you, who would you be? Who could you be? And if you manage to do that for just a week, let me tell you that this is the beginning of a great transformation. And that's about it, I guess, for today's commentary. Do you guys have any personal story you want to share, or closing words, or suggestions?
Well, one of the reasons that I can deal better with my anxiety in general and living with multiple people over here that sometimes can get quite volatile is by just distancing myself in a situation and not getting worked up by it, because one of the reasons why my oversensitive is the way it is and my anxiety is the way it is that I take too much things hostile that are not, and too much things personal that should not be taken personal. And by being able to distance yourself from those things, you let go of a lot of stress as well. Just in general, even in something simplistic as video games, for example. Like there's this game that I'm playing, Valheim. It's a game that a lot of people play where you can build a boat in there. So I took a lot of effort, took me hours to build this boat. I let one of my friends that's new in the game drive in the boat. She crashes the boat and the boat is gone. So I have to make a new boat. So and like a past of me would have been like, God fucking damn it, and would have raged, would have called it quits, would have, you know. And now I'm like, yeah, my boat sank. Damn, should have recorded that. That was kind of funny in a sad way. Oh well, you know, I'll just make another boat, I guess. Why not? So
enlightenment.
yeah. It also helps me to play with it. Does sometimes, but it helps because, especially when said other person that crashed the boat was more annoyed by it than me that built the boat in the first place. But you know, I don't know. You start to rage, because I used to rage a lot in video games early on, especially as a teen. Every time I would lose, every time I would lose a rank, every time. But now I often play with very casual people, even though I can get in certain games to red rank or high rank, and then I play with some of my casual friends and I lose like 10 ranks in a row. Partly because of them, and I'm like, I don't care. And like, I know that I can play the game. I don't need Untitled to prove my worth anymore. So by letting all of that go, I let go of my stress as well.
As you build the boat, you are not only building the boat, you are building the image of you owning that boat. You're thinking, oh, this boat is going to be nice, this boat is going to look beautiful, this boat is going to ride the 7 seas a wonderful way. And so you start having a future for this boat, you start having plans for this boat, and this boat starts being part of you, to the point that you even make plans to share the boat with somebody else, and then boom, they crash it, and there goes your expectation.
Just one sea.
That part is
yeah.
And that's very Buddhist actually, because that's how desire works and builds the aggregates inside of you, and then impermanence will, without fail, frustrate your desire, and that's the birth of anger there. And that applies as well to the people around you who expect you to do and say things that you won't do, or say and you will do and say something else, and they have no answer to that, and that frustrates them because you're out of what they expected as well. So all violence is kind of being born from this. And what do they teach you if you take a therapy, an anger therapy? They teach you that if you have no more words and you don't know how to handle the emotion, and you're going to handle the frustration by hitting or yelling or whatever, just walk away and go handle it on your own. So what you're doing there, withdrawing yourself from those difficult situations, is basically what anger therapy would advise you to do. But it doesn't apply just to those extreme cases. That applies to us all of the time. And if you see, they often say that Buddhism uproots the roots of ignorance, because by uprooting ego, by uprooting desire, by uprooting that personal story, you're basically uprooting your anger or the need to deal with it as well. So yes, you will see that the person that crashed your boat did not practice in that way, and maybe 2 years from now they will tell you, Casper, remember when I crashed your boat? I still hate myself for that. And for you it will have lasted 3 seconds because you handled it, and you handled it well, right? So as your realization on the path deepens, you start to see this, that people are kind of stuck with a bunch of feelings that just fell off your back. And that's the entire idea of Buddhism, I'd say, to walk like a duck and having all of those life events just rolling off our backs, like not getting sticky, not working us too hard. So thank you for your story. I mean, it's a good insight into all of those teachings, I guess.
Well, you know, as
Um,
I always learned to make something complicated, something understandable, that you try to use an example that everyone can relate to, and we all play video games, so use a common example like that.
Yeah, and if you swear in it, it's even more powerful.
Oh yeah. I used to swear a lot. It was the first things I learned in the English language when I at my Xbox 360 first time online experience, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think Jesus, what I learned, the swears, and it was the only communication I had. It was the only thing I needed actually.
NeoJax, you wanted to comment something as well, I think.
Oh, thanks for remembering. I had my hand up a while ago. I think it was a question around, you were talking about being fully present and calm, to completely engage with life, see with the eyes of a painter, taste with the taste of a chef. It made me think, well, I can imagine then if I'm like being really present with food, I guess that would lead me to want to eat healthier food, because I want to be more present with what's real. And in terms of different social situations, I guess I'd want to be really aware with like putting myself into places that I will love. And it made me wonder, then what do we do if we're in a situation which is not the ones that we would love or choose?
Well, it's exactly what would happen is exactly what would happen with the food. If you're eating fast food consciously, first of all, oftentimes it doesn't look like food. Second of all, it tastes. Not always, but you can almost taste the chemicals in some of those food, or it tastes just too good to be true, I guess. And then mostly you will see how, if you keep on paying attention after you've ingested that food, you will see how it's being processed by your system. If it takes you straight to the toilet, or if you feel bloated for hours and so on. So you would just recognize that, oh my, look at what fast food is doing to me. So if you were hanging in the wrong places or with the wrong people consciously, you would probably get to the same realizations that it's not very conducive to more harmony in your life. So yeah, presence is everything basically. When you're present to your life. I like to ask people, instead of asking them how are you, I like to ask, hey, how's life treating you? And then they tell me something, and then I ask them, and then how are you treating life? Right? Because you will see that it's often connected. If life is treating you bad right now, it's probably because you've been treating life not long ago. So if you're present to this relationship that you have with everything in your life, it will just start becoming better. All right. So let's do a little meditation together. By the way, those that are here for the first time, if you guys want to come back, 2 ways. One, you can befriend me, and second, there's a poster outside the wall there with the hours at which we have sessions, and there's a QR code there that you can scan to get onto our Discord. So that's probably the best way to stay in touch with the entire community. There are probably close to 200 on the Discord now, so quite a bunch of meditators in there. All right, so
and
let's
these
do
sessions are every Monday and Wednesday. So they're pretty regular, and there's sometimes occasionally extra ones too.
Thank you. So just also to let you know about a little change, I will be sticking with this session, which for me is 1 p.m. on Mondays. NeoJax is coming to help at night because it was a lot to do 2 sessions every Monday. So Neojack's gonna handle the 8 p.m. so session B, and we still have our Bante Sati doing the session on Wednesday. So 3 sessions now. It's gonna be more diverse. If you want to stick up with my commentaries, Casper is always recording and streaming that. So if you attend other sessions, usually you can always catch on the recording. Are you streaming today, Casper?
Recording. I always record. I don't really have. I mean, I have a Twitch, but I don't really have an audience that really watches me.
All right. So I just. Oh, Malka as well. So let me say that. Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad. I'm teaching a meditation class today again. I hope you're doing fine. All right. So let's do. Did somebody never meditate here among the newcomers?
This is my first time.
All right. So I will guide the session entirely. We have 3 phases in our meditation that correspond to actually 3 meditation techniques. First one is shamatha, which is a calm abiding, so it helps us relax ourselves, but it's a meditation about mindfulness mainly. Second phase, so that's the after the second bell that you will hear, we switch into Tonglen, which is a practice about compassion, where we exchange ourselves with others. And finally, usually we get into Vipassana, which is a personal discursive meditation about the nature of the self, nature of the world, and where we're trying to kind of deepen our insights into the nature of reality. So without further ado, let us begin. All right, so let us take a deep breath. Actually, let's take 3 deep breaths. You can close your eyes if you haven't done so yet. So meditation is practiced with your eyes 3/4 closed, so you can pick a spot about 45 degrees in front of you on the floor without looking at the floor in the direction of the floor. And but in the beginning, sometimes it helps to relax, to have your eyes completely closed for a few minutes. So you can do that as well. Let's start simply by relaxing our body, starting with the top of our head, relaxing our scalp, eyebrows, eyelids, letting them fall very naturally. And around the eyes, the eye sockets. Feel the muscles around your ears. Make sure that they are relaxed. Relax your cheeks, your jaws. And allow your lips to touch, but don't clench your teeth together. You can rest the tongue naturally in the upper palate. And make sure your body is well aligned. So you can rock yourself back and forth a little bit like that. And let yourself fall into the middle so that your head and neck and back are all straight. And just to make sure, do it sideways as well, so you can rock yourself sideways. Let yourself fall naturally in position. When you're done, you can proceed to relax the back of your head, your neck. Let all tension go from your shoulders. Rest your upper back. Your arms should be laying softly and naturally on your laps. Make sure your chest is soft. Relax your lower back and the belly. And then make sure your legs are providing a solid platform for your body so that you don't get tired. Relax your thighs and your legs and your feet. Don't forget your hands and your fingers. And then let us breathe for a couple more times. And with each breath, as you exhale, feel more relaxed. So the basic instruction is to have the mind follow the breath. Notice the breath actually. You don't have to breathe stronger. You don't have to breathe deeper. You don't have to slow down your breathing. You don't have to pick up the pace either. Just breathe very naturally. And that natural breathing is your meditation support. So you want the mind occupied with the breath. And if you see that the mind wanders away in a thought or an emotion, just name it, thinking, and go back to the breath. Or feeling, and back to the breath. Make sure that you are relaxing and following the breath. The idea there is to notice what's going on in the mind and what's going on internally. And as you get into the habit of noticing what goes on internally, you get better dominion over your emotions, you get better in touch with them, and so can treat yourself with more harmony as well. Let's just follow the breathing and get into a deeper meditative state until the next bell. Don't forget, if the mind wanders away, to bring it back to your breath. So for our Tonglen practice today, let us think of all those people that we have briefly discussed, and let us think about ourselves as well, and what we consider ourselves to be in everyday life. How we think that having a larger house or a larger car or better this and that make us into better people. And let us see the tragedy in this. You could pick someone in your mind's eye, whether yourself or somebody that you know, or could be just an acquaintance or a colleague at work that's living according to those false standards. And let us reflect on the tragedy, on the cowardice that it actually is to be hiding behind things instead of assuming who we truly are completely. Let us think of how we hide behind a story and a narrative about ourselves in order often not to do things differently. As you connect with the sadness of this idea, let the courage arise in you. Let bodhicitta and compassion arise in you. Let the light fill your heart, and you can imagine a big shining white light filling your heart. And imagine it growing stronger and stronger, big light. 3 deep breaths as you cultivate that light. This light is a light that transcends your bodily envelope, transcends your story. It is your potential to shine. And so as we breathe, we will imagine that every time that we exhale, we are sharing a little bit of that courage with the rest of the world so that they can be who they truly are. And as we breathe in, we take away all of those aggregates that people have built identities with. So let's exchange those false identities for pure courage as we breathe in and out. you want, you can expand on your practice a little bit by thinking about human nature and how, for example, a forest only has a value once it's transformed into lumber. How we acquire and transform our environment into things that we can possess. The problem with our identity has dramatic consequences for the earth and our environment. And so let us share a little bit of our courage as well with the entire planet, so that we might be less fearful and more respectful of our earth. And just like in shamatha, if the mind wanders away from the practice, just take it back gently. I feel it often helps to bring your hands together in a prayer mudra when you are trying to let arise strong aspirations such as this one to help others. If you want, you can place your hands together and keep on focusing on the exchange process. So in the Vipassana phase of our meditation, we may try and observe where we get a sense of our ego's solidity. do this little exercise that we discussed earlier of looking at our thoughts. Do we identify with things of the mind? Are we proud of what we know? Of our intelligence? Is that how we distinguish ourselves from others? Or maybe we don't feel that smart. Maybe we let people run all over us because we don't feel that we are intellectually capable. In both cases, let us drop those facts. Let us drop those stories. Allow ourselves to be sometimes smart, sometimes not. Let's allow ourselves to be ignorant of certain things and knowing of certain others, but also ignorant of many things. Let us realize that we ignore more than we know. And then let us think about our emotions. Were we defined by certain traumatic experiences in our childhood? Maybe it was more than one experience. Maybe they repeated themselves. Or do we make a point of being cheerful even when we're not feeling good? Are we still able to laugh and cry and express childlike emotions? Or have we barred ourselves from it? Do we consider ourselves to be hypersensitive or insensitive? How could we deal with our emotions in a way that they would be felt but not throw us out of balance? Again, let us forget our history, let our traumatic experiences fall away, and our expectations also of future happiness. Our quest for pleasure can only bring pain, so let that slip away. What's your relationship with your body? Do you love it or hate it? Or are you indifferent to it? Do you feed it well, exercise it well, wash it well? The body is keeping you alive. Are you keeping the body alive too? If you believe that you're too tall or too short, or too fat or too thin, that all those stories slip away as well. If you believe you are ugly or beautiful, let that go as well. Then you consider yourself a spiritual person. Let's realize that it is also part of our identity. If you believe that you're a scientific person, it is also another story that you're telling yourself. Refuse to define yourself. Think of your relationships in the world with things and people. See how they help define you and you define them. And let us just breathe until the end. Whatever happens during meditation, whatever may trigger us, whatever unexpected event or call or whatever happens when we're here, is an opportunity to notice what triggers us, an opportunity to observe the emotions that arrive and that arise in ourselves, the reactions that we would like to do. And an opportunity to learn. So whatever happens, let's use that also to understand ourselves better. What are you proud of in your life? Pride is often very much connected with identity. Have a look at what you pride yourself to be. And let us finish by taking a deep breath, stretching a little bit, and taking our newly found conclusions into the real world. You may open your eyes slowly. All right, so how are you all feeling?
Lighter.
How was your first session, you guys?
I really enjoyed that. It was really about asking
something special during meditation
I
today?
do have a question to ask that I kind of wanted to ask for a long time. The second part of meditation about the whole compassion and, for example, you know, that you, when you feel sad that someone else is stuck and that you sometimes I wonder, isn't that something like, I don't know, if said person would know that I think about him or her during such moment, they would be like, why would you?
Is it
Condescending.
You
Yeah, in such a way, because that person would say to me, "What are you thinking, even feeling sorry for me?" And he or she would get volatile with me and say, "You should look more upon yourself before feeling sorry or feeling like this, this and that." No.
So the answer to this is personal, Casper. It depends how you do it. Do you look down on the person as you see her suffering, or do you look at her like a defenseless baby that you need to help? Depends where the compassion is it compassion or is it looking down actually? So when I say let our bodhicitta arise, let our compassion arise, this is the feeling we're looking for basically, where we think, oh, if I was stuck like that, if I was feeling like that, I kind of know how difficult. I know how difficult it is. I'm human, and I wish people didn't have to experience that. That's kind of what Tunglin is about there. First, you recognize your human condition and the shared struggles of humanity, and then you wish for others to be free of it. Because what's special with Tunglin also is that you are not free from struggles yet. I am not free from struggles yet. Nobody is here. And so it's like a pious wish. We want people to be completely happy even before we are. I look at it more as like sharing the happiness of the awakening than I look at it as, oh, poor little creature that doesn't understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
All right. Anybody else wants to share? Okay. Then Julia, maybe join me for dedication and we'll call it a day. All rise, please. Don't kill yourself in the process, please. We need you next session.
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
On to Nirvana.
Oh, and before you end the session, I have something to give out to you next at the end of the session, but only when everything will be done.
Yeah, we can gather outside of the spawn point, though. Whenever you want, Julia.
For the benefit of beings without exception, I dedicate without any reticence whatsoever all the merit accrued through virtuous acts to the incomparable expanse of totality.
And that's it. So for those whose first time it is, we usually exit the shrine in the same order we joined it. Now people arrived at pretty much any hour today, so that might not work. What I know is that I was first, so I'm gonna do a little bow to you guys. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm gonna simply exit the shrine.
I'm just gonna wait for last, like I usually do.
his avatar?
Doing well. Hello, Gerard. Hello, Gerard. Hello.
He's new to the VR chat. He don't know how to what buttons to press.
Yeah.
Press.
Do you mind if I borrow that one?
And that is specifically for you.
40.
It's going to
Now,
be
why is
Quest
a
compatible and PC compatible,
Buddhist her
plus it
entire
is
life?
going to be
I
as
show her
optimized
this
as I can.
world,
Like,
and she feels
the
uneasy
most
about
optimized avatar you probably will ever find.
Sounds like
She
she's
feels-
got some
Wow, Don, that's very nice. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But there's one thing, you won't have the plushie since I think it is
He's gone.
not really
Hey.
part of the Buddhism, so I'm just trying to give something simple that fits most people, and if you want the plushie, just let me know and I will keep it on the avatar. But that's my
All right. So did you hear that, Neojax? That Don Shadow is making a surprise for us. He's gonna make each of us a special avatar with our name and everything. That's super nice of him.
Basically, this model that you see here is going to be yours with your name on it, and on the back, if you want, I will add the Sambo Gakaya Samga logo on the back, so when you
Hey,
walk,
one
people
second,
can
sorry.
see the logo.
Sensei, what do we do about this person going and saying terrible things to everybody?
What is? I don't really know what's going on. Actually, what happened?
No, me neither.
They streamed this world to their friend who's a Buddhist, and their Buddhist friend said, a Buddhist world would never have leaves floating or be so pretty. And so now the person's just super angry and saying this is a cult and you're like Charles Manson. Like, they're obviously insane, but...
Who's saying that? I didn't even know that. What?
This freak over here.
I like how you called it a freak. Hun, I don't think that's real, hun. I think this is all elaborate charade, hun. Because if you ask me again, no, let me say this. Now then, if people say that this is the designated Buddhist
Maybe
world,
we
a
can
real
have all
Buddhist hun can
together
make any
a
world
group
a Buddhist
discussion
world.
with them so we can
A
explain
real
them
Buddhist
better.
would not have their
Because one
Discord
person
flash
cannot
over,
convince
and
another
also a real
sometimes.
Buddhist teacher would not have
I
the
just
Buddha
blocked them and
facing
suddenly
him
my
on a lower
life
scale.
is so
The
much
Buddha would
better.
be right behind him and
But
higher than
normally I
him,
wouldn't
hun.
take that approach with
Hey.
someone, but this person
Hey,
seems
we
really
are not
insane.
real Buddhists.
Enki.
We are not
And
real
yet
Buddhists.
and yet this is a Buddhist world, apparently.
We do this for fun.
Oh, Zenki, that's my friend. Yeah,
Right
she
there.
just joined me.
Right there. Right there, it says
Well, that's
Buddhist
okay.
studies, so don't say you're not what you advertise you are. Don't lie to me,
I-
sweetie.
No, I'm streaming.
I don't care if you're streaming or not, hon.
No, you asked if anyone's streaming.
I don't care if anyone's streaming. I said don't advertise what you... Don't say you're not what you advertise you are.
Is it Zenki that has that?
And again, no.
Zenki, can you send me the logo of the Samba, the
And
place
you
here?
sound highly offended that someone has a
Your
problem with
Discord
the world. What's wrong with that one, then?
No, I'm not offended. It's just a lot. Right now, I am holding my daughter right here. My wife is making soup behind me. Don Shadow is asking me about the logo. You are angry, I don't know why. And we're streaming. And I can very lovingly, patiently have a discussion with you if that's what you want to have. If you don't, then, I mean, I have other things to do as well. But if you want to have a quick chat, I don't pretend this world to be anything else but a VR chat world. You know how
Then
communities
don't advertise
roleplay?
this world to me. Don't
You know-
advertise it. Don't do this shit ever again. This is your one and final warning.
Now I want to unblock him.
What's gonna happen otherwise? Should the people
I'm
who are
not-
playing police, should the
I'm
people
not-
that are playing police in VR
Calm
chat
down, dude.
remove their world?
Someone blocked
Should we remove people who are playing army from VR chat? Should they remove those that drive virtual cars? Are they lying as well?
No.
Tell me what's your
No,
perception of reality here.
It's a public world. It's not like you were forced to come here. What's going on?
You are welcome here. Everybody's welcome here. If
Oh,
you don't agree
okay.
with it,
Yes,
you're
you are.
also welcome not to come. But we like you. If you want to integrate, have a seat.
I
Do
don't
that
see him
anytime.
anymore. Did he block me? I don't see him anymore.
There's a high chance that if you don't see them, but you can still see them in the player list that they blocked you.
Why would he block me? What?
Zenkei,
I can
weird
still see
thing,
him
but
and
VR
hear
chat is
him, but
glitching out,
someone
and
blocked
for
me.
me, you're sitting in one of those
Don't know.
chairs still. Can you sit in
Yeah,
that
you-
and it'll fix the glitch?
Why can't I see him anymore? I just said one
Yeah,
thing.
it happens
Like, what the heck?
Back to
Casper, I guess they blocked you.
I
I don't know why.
I guess what a snowflake he is. if he blocks me after once.
It's just a snowflake. Welcome.
It's now quiet.
There are plenty of them.
Yeah.
I have a memory disorder and sometimes forget to mute or unmute myself.
Oh, no,
Along with a lot of other things.
I'm actually glad to have you.
I don't.
It's always fun to have new people.
My friend is new for VR chat. He just installed it today. Costa, come over here.
I mean, joins a public role that no one forces him to start.
Thank you for coming and voicing your opinion.
Malka.
I'm gonna have to leave, unfortunately, but if you want us
You said
to
your friend Kios was new
discuss
to VR
further,
chat?
I'm quite
Hey,
open to
Misa,
it.
you need an RTX card for it. Yes.
He's not new, he's a
I
user.
didn't realize it was interrupting. Sorry.
He's not new, he's a user.
That's the problem. It's me coughing and stuff.
I'm gonna send you a friend request, Chaos One, if you want to have a chat at some point.
You added
We
a
can do
really
that.
great point about being open to it. I'm sorry.
Can you ask him why he blocked me from all people? I'm just curious.
He blocked me because I call him a snowflake.
I thought I had myself muted.
He blocked me.
I think I laughed at him. And he didn't like that.
Your settings and
He don't really good with buttons. He is over there. I don't know. He just learned how
And he
to
can hear me
speak
through
before
Malco
that.
now.
I'm in VR. We don't have.
So,
I'm up to date.
Yeah.
thank you for coming.
I can hear my echo
It's,
through you, so if
we
Chaos
always have
didn't
colorful
mute you, you can still hear
visitors, so
me.
that's great.
Don't worry about it.
maybe reduce your maybe
So weird. I mean,
reduce maybe
Jones a
reduce your
public,
microphone
Jones
sensitivity
a
so you
public
need
role
to
starts
actually talk
complaining
and
about
just a cough is
of
like
commercializing
Yeah.
that.
See you next Monday.
Because he blocked me.
There are some weird people in VR chat sometimes.
Kind of
Yeah,
entitled.
by the way,
Yes.
I can't see him anymore.
Yeah, he
And
probably.
he blocked you.
Oh
Oh,
no.
he's gone. Oh.
either block.
I don't know, he blocked me, so.
Yeah,
Sitting
what's the...
still
hurts. I think he
Yeah,
left.
I get that.
Oh no, he's still,
You know-
he's still here.
You know,
He's still here. I see him in the world.
I would wonder to ask him
So
what
you're
he
blocked.
thinks. I
You're
would
blocked,
want to ask him what a real Buddhist is then, according to him. Well, how should the world look like then? I mean,
No, but
he seems.
what do you want to do there? There's no point in arguing with him. I mean,
Yeah, probably
he
not.
is angry. I am not.
He's made up his mind.
I'm just curious
Yeah,
at this
definitely.
point. That's all. I'm
Yeah,
curious
it
when
is what
such
it
things
is.
He's
happen.
decided to be angry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
No,
so
it is
I'm
what it
gonna
is.
have to go soon. Don, do you want to show me your world before I leave? I can spare, and I guess is everybody welcome to look at your world as well?
Yes, the only thing is this world is not Quest compatible, and if you want to be able to participate, there's a cap of 6 players right now on the world. The only thing I ask is please do not use flight or no-clip glitches or hacks or whatever, because that will break the ball physics. The ball will just like fall and just roll, and it's not supposed to do that. So that's what I learned with the world. I will drop a portal
Okay,
right
so
over here.